What's going on, guys? We are back. We're actually talking about the 12 Titans, and the tournament was pre-recorded. The first, I believe, ever cinematic tournament experience, basically, like a pre-recorded tournament that was then shown live on Twitch for Rocket League so far. I just want to go over my review of the tournament and like, was this a good idea? Yada, yada, yada. And we'll go from there. I actually have notes on my phone. I was watching upstairs. I want to get them open. And just going to go over some stuff. First off, there will be no spoilers in this video at all. I will link the video once it's up on YouTube in the description below as well. So if you guys want to go watch that, feel free. You can watch this first. It's not a big deal. I will not spoil any matches whatsoever. I'm just talking more about the production and certain aspects of the tournament itself. So I will not spoil one bit. Good, let's go over it. All right, first, League of Rockets. All right, so I keep calling it the League of Rockets tournament because that's basically what it is. It's by the League of Rockets guys, or guy, whoever that is. And I thought his promos were pretty solid coming into the event. Like, I thought it built a lot of hype. I thought sometimes the wording on some of it, like, I love the mysterious type of voice and all that. It was fantastic. Like, no one's done that for Rocket League, and I thought it was a fantastic idea. I thought sometimes the script might have not been perfect, but that's perfectly fine. Like, it did its job, and it built a lot of hype, as we just saw on Twitch. I think we hit just over 10K for that tournament, which it did a fantastic job. The only thing I was hoping was maybe one last promo. Well, actually, so there's two things. First, the promos were like, hey, we're sending out invites. If anyone declines, we will not do this tournament. That was obviously not going to happen because Markey did decline and they just subbed him out. So maybe not wording it so drastically based on players, because sometimes players just don't want to do this stuff. So Markey declined, and also Greasy also forfeited throughout the tournament. That's the only spoiler of that you'll get. He just did not play in it. Sorry, that was a minor spoiler, but he did forfeit his match, and so I thought that was a little weird. The forfeit is bound to happen, but since it's pre-recorded, they could have tried to work with it, I guess, but I guess every other player showed up at the proper time, and the casters actually were casting from the same location, so I think there was time-limited aspects there, which is fine. But like, I thought the promos, maybe, like, instead of trying to be so drastic, could have used a little bit of a different wording since Markey, he declined, and yet the tournament still happened. So, of course, we would have loved to see Markey there, but he was not there. I thought the choice of players was fine. It's up to the tournament organizer who they want to choose. They're obviously going to choose some popular players over maybe better players, per se, here or there, but that's up to the tournament owner's choice. Of course, the fans want to see those players anyway, and that's going to bolster up views, so that's completely up to them. Like, they're putting up the money, why not? Like, I don't mind that certain players were not picked. The only thing I did mind was one of the gatekeepers I thought might not have been a gatekeeper. That's probably my only gripe. I won't say who it was, but you'll probably get who I'm talking about here. But I don't want to spoil too much here, but they didn't announce who the 4 players were on buys because it was a single elim tournament. There was 12 players, so there was 8 players in the bottom round, and then it moved up to the next 4, and then it was a winner-take-all, so I don't think it mattered too much. But I thought maybe the scene was just a little bit off with one particular gatekeeper. But that brings me to the actual naming of everything. I thought that was phenomenal. Like, the first round, he called it the Pit. Like, it made a lot of like, excitement, because that's like the hardest thing to do is like name rounds in a tournament, and I think it builds a lot of hype when you do it. You see it in March Madness and the college football, Sweet 16, like Elite 8, Final 4, and all that. So I thought he did that phenomenally. He had the Pit, that he had the Gatekeeper round, and then Final 4, obviously, and then Grand Final. Like, you don't really need a name for that. The only thing I thought was a little weird was the production quality between games was great. I thought the overlay for the in-game was actually very minimal and didn't look fantastic compared to the rest of the production. I thought it didn't really match the rest of the production. Like, he could have spiced that up a bit, and I wish for the first 2 rounds, actually the first 3 rounds, he just called it round 1, 2, and 3 in the overlay. He should have called it the Pit for round 1, round 2 gatekeepers or something, or gatekeeper round or something, workshop it. And then round 3, at least semifinals or final 4. He didn't name it those. It was just round 1, 2, and 3, which is kind of confusing because when you don't know how many rounds is in a tournament, those names don't really mean anything. So why not make it a little bit more spicy? Like, the production was supposed to be over the top and like very hype-esque, so why not name these rounds? So I thought that could have used a little bit of work. Let's go over this. Let's see what else I got here. The bracket graphic, so I thought the production behind it was nice, but I didn't really like how he presented it with 4 arches for each round up until the final 4 was 2 arches, and the finals was 1. It was fine, but then it was weird to just have one name underneath each. I would have loved to at least seen the whole bracket, maybe in a promo video beforehand. But that also brings me to the second point of the semifinals being reseeded more than likely, which we'll get to in a second. But just the way it was presented was, I think, a little bit off. It was a little bit confusing. It didn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things. The casters also spoiled one of the gatekeepers in an earlier round match, which should have been coordinated a little bit better, so they didn't spoil that. But they only spoiled 1 out of the 4, so that was okay. Like, you knew who the 4 were once the last match took place, but that could have been a little bit more of a surprise, because at least for the first 2 rounds, the bracket was set, and then they changed up the seed, and it seemed like, for the semifinals going forward. I won't say how they changed it. They just changed it in a particular way. Like, I will say that they changed it probably due to lag concerns, which I am perfectly fine with. It's better off to do it that way than to do it, than maybe having it be actual seeding purposes. I'm trying to be a little bit gray here so you don't get too spoiled from it, but I could see it either way. I didn't mind that they changed the matchups for the semifinals, but at least the graphic, since they knew they changed that before he made all these graphics, he should have just reorganized the tournament bracket so it would fall into place that way. Because it just looked extremely weird. When you got down to the final 4, it listed all 4 along a line, and normally you read it as the first 2 play, then the second 2 play, but that's not what happened at all. So that was a little confusing. And then my biggest gripe out of this entire thing was he tried to defend the tournament itself before it actually happened with an explanation, and one of his explanations actually spoiled some of the matches. So one of them was, he was talking about the cross-regional games, because people were like, oh, how are you going to do that because there's lag or whatever, yada, yada, yada. It's like, just let it happen. Like, if that was your choice, you don't have to explain it. He actually said there was only 3 cross-regional games that were played, and 2 of the 3 were one-off host. He also said that the hosting was dependent on the seeding until the later rounds where they did a best-of-3 kickoff. So, it basically, once we found out one of the matches, it actually spoiled a different match for me. The Gatekeeper match number 3 was actually spoiled for me just because of how that was read, and based on seeding, that's how it would have played out. That's as much as I'm going to go into there. Don't think about it too much if you haven't watched the video yet, because I don't want it to spoil it for you as well, but just don't think about it too much. But that was kind of unfortunate. I thought it might have actually happened again with the semifinals, but then they made it so it was the same region playing each other, which is also a minor spoiler, but it's not. Again, just don't think about it. Just go watch the video if you really care. But so at least it didn't spoil the second semifinal, which I thought it was about to, and that would have sucked. So that didn't happen, which was nice. But just saying that there was only 3 cross-regional games, and yeah, basically just saying that there was 3 cross-regional games was just like, it wasn't great. And that 2 were one-off hosts. That kind of spoiled things if you were paying attention. So that kind of sucked. But besides that, like, I thought it was fantastic. I'm trying to see what else we got here. So the casters, when they were introing, like, they had player intros by the narrator, which I thought were fantastic before the games started. But then the casters would do another intro on the players itself. And the problem is, in ones, they started the game immediately. As soon as the casters talked, the game started. The problem is, in ones, there's a lot of face-off goals that happen. So a couple times, like during their intros, a goal was just scored within 3 seconds, and then it kind of threw it off a bit. But since like the narrator did intros, maybe he could have coordinated with the caster. So not intro as heavily going into the games. Maybe just, like bring some stuff in throughout the game, but you don't have to really do another intro since they just did it through the narrator. So I thought that was a little bit weird. Like, I'm not going to comment on the games itself or the casters much because, like, casters are fine. Like, I don't mind. Like, Shogun and Johnny do a great job. And the games itself, it's just the quality of the games, whatever you could get. The best of ones I thought was fine. He was trying to make it a short, snappy tournament, and it ran about almost exactly 2 hours. And I thought that was a perfect amount of time for 11 games. That worked out extremely well. And I thought it built a lot of hype for ones, because ones sometimes can get a little bit old in like a best of 5 setting or something like that. So I thought it was fun because it just changed things up. Of course, like, you're not necessarily going to get the number one best player is going to win this, but at the same time, you won't get that unless you play best of like 5,000 and you see on average. Like, it's more fun to see some upsets, I feel like, and I thought it brought a lot of excitement to the tournament itself. See what else we got here. Yeah, defending the show I thought was just poor. Like, he should have just went with it. I really wish there was a promo of the bracket beforehand, because that could have built even more hype, but he really didn't need it because a lot of people showed up for this event and a lot of people were excited to watch it, like including myself. So maybe he didn't need it, but I thought maybe promo in the pit matchups or something would have been cool. One thing I thought that was weird was when they were in-game, there wasn't as much editing as I thought there was going to be, because the whole point is it's pre-recorded and there's going to be a lot of editing. But I thought between goals they might do some more fancy editing. Basically, they just had a whale sound in 2 different angles that were the same length as a normal replay, so the casters weren't thrown off. The whale sound definitely got old. Like, after a while. The grand finals, they at least changed it. Maybe they could have had a different sound for each arena, or just spiced it up a little bit different, or not something so extreme. Like, the whale sound was a little bit extreme, I thought. So that could have been a little bit better. The 0 second going to gray was great. They did screw up one where it was at 1 second. I'm surprised they didn't catch that. But that was a great choice. Plus, the overtime music was also awesome in the few overtimes that we got. I thought the music might have been just a bit loud. It kind of drowned out the casters just a tiny bit. The game sound I thought was perfect. Most tournaments, they have the game sound really low and the casters really loud. This was a great mix, and it seemed like, I'm not sure if he actually did this, it seemed like the audio when you went to auto cam was actually bumped up, and then when it was a player cam, so they were about the same volume. Because usually in auto cam, it's actually a lot lower. So it seemed like it got bumped up a lot, and you can really only do that in post production, and it sounded really, really good. Just the overtime music might have been a little bit too loud. But yeah, the replays itself, I thought were a nice touch, but I thought it could have been expanded on a bit. And of course, like, this is the first run at it. The other thing, the first 2 rounds, there's 8 games played out of the 11 total. There was no breaks in between. Like, I thought they could have done a break between the pit and the gatekeeper round, and maybe even had one of his like analysis type things based on one play, just to give a little bit of a break for people to go to the bathroom if they want, or they could watch it as well, or just another short break. He had a 5-minute break between the gatekeeper round and the semifinals, but he didn't have one between the pit and the gatekeeper round, which I thought could have probably used one there. It seemed like it was just kind of like you were there, like you were stuck there for a little over an hour, I would say. Unless you wanted to miss some of the game. Like, personally for me, like, I had to miss like some moments in the 1v1s itself. But I thought the outros, trying to like talk about the game really quickly with the narrator, was pretty good. Like, I thought the script was pretty decent compared to some of his promo videos. So I thought that was done really well. Let's see what else I got. Let's see. Yeah, that's about it. The Pash, like, huge shout out to him. He bumped up $500 more for the tournament. I thought, as an experiment for like a cinematic tournament, was fantastic. I think this should happen more often, not all the time. There is a time and place for a live tournament. There's time and place for this. Like, I love seeing different things. I don't know why everyone wants everything just live, and then like production is going to suffer. The only thing I would say is maybe production could have been a little bit better for like the in-game replays. Again, though, he would have had to coordinate with the casters to like break after a goal and then start over once a new goal like once a new play was about to begin, which could have been a little weird. Maybe if he coordinated a little bit better there, though, then he could have expanded on it and had some more replay looks and stuff like that, instead of only being that limited, like, 5-second window that you have during a normal replay. So it didn't really expand on that replay aspect. But once again, like, that whale sound I thought was a little bit much because it was so dominant, but there's so many goals in ones that you just hear over and over and over again. But I thought, like, as an experiment or as, like, a first-time thing, this was fantastic. I want to see more of this. Like, I don't want to see every tournament like this again. Live tournaments have their time and place. They won't have the same production quality, but that's fine. Like, most people watch live sports. Obviously, that has more production quality, but, like, I never watch a sport taped. But at the same time, that's because everyone already watched it. Like, this was a great way to do it. Not put it out on YouTube first. It was a great idea to put it out on Twitch first so people would enjoy it together and then throw it up on YouTube. He does lose revenue from this by far because he was not he doesn't have a sub button, or he's not partnered on Twitch, which also hurt the quality a bit because you can't, I'm pretty sure if you're not partnered, you can't like up the bit rate to like the 3500. So that hurt the quality just a bit. I assume on YouTube the quality will be better. Like, so far I haven't seen it because I don't think it's out yet technically, but I will link it in the description below in case you missed it. But I thought, like, as an experiment, fantastic job. I hope we see more of these because it was actually really cool to see. Even if there were some gripes I had with some of the stuff, but overall, like, 9 out of 10. Like, this was a great start to something like this. I hope he does more of these, or I hope other people start thinking about doing stuff like this as well. Like, I think just the big mistakes was the little bit of spoilers that he gave by trying to clarify stuff, which, again, don't clarify to fans. Like, there's a lot of fans that will always not care what you say and will think that you're wrong no matter what. And also the like, forfeit kind of sucked. Like, what can you do there? But overall, hats off to you. I have my hat here, Hats off to you. Great tournament. I hope to see more of this stuff. It was extremely fun to watch. I don't usually watch a lot of live tournaments. I wait to VODs or something like that just because of sometimes there's such long breaks in between every match. And I can't sit around right now with a kid. I really just can't sit around and watch a tournament live because there's so much time to break because they have to set up the next match. So personally, like, I love this way, but live tournaments have their time and place as well, and I think both can fit into this ecosystem of Rocket League. And once again, man, I'm really happy this happened. I hope we see more of this. Hats off to the players, too. There were some phenomenal games in there. Usually in ones, like, you start seeing a lot more one-sided games. There was actually a lot of close games, some epic comebacks and stuff like that. So the games itself actually worked out really, really well. So I was happy about that. Again, like, so I'm not trying to review the games itself because you can't help that. I'm trying to review everything else around it. And Casters, too. Like, Shogun's my boy, and Johnny Boy, like, he always does great work in ones. He probably knows the ones game with all these players more than anyone else. So they did a phenomenal job. I was more wanting to talk about just the production, and I thought it went pretty well. And I hope we see more of this. And this was his first try at this, and I assume it'll get better and better. And I hope you guys go support it on YouTube. Like, show some love. Like, everyone showed some love on Twitch with over 10K views. And hopefully we see some more of this. And yeah, that's all I got to say about this, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about the tournament. Try not to spoil in the comments. If you do, if you haven't seen it, don't look in the comments because it will be spoiled. I will put it on the top of my description, the YouTube link, once it comes out. Or you can just look it up yourself to try and avoid spoilers. Just don't look at comments. Don't look at Reddit, obviously, if you haven't looked there. And it was a blast to watch, and I hope we see more. Hats off to the players as well. They all played well. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Later.